fights, pay-per-view, UFC 240 in Canada? Yep. Hi, what's going on? My name is Jesse. Welcome back to the 6th round. Thank you so much for tuning in for another Wednesday pre-fight analysis for upcoming fights coming this weekend in Canada with a huge pay-per-view and the return of probably one of my top favorite fighters, at least top 2 ever in MMA history. We're going to start off right away at the beginning of the main event card. We have Marc-Andre Barriault going up against a very, very tough UFC veteran, Christophe Joko. Now, they're both UFC veterans, but when we look at Marc-Andre Barriault, he's only had one fight in the UFC where he lost via unanimous decision against a very game Andrew Sanchez, a very tough opponent. But when we compare to the roster of Christophe Joko, a guy who's been fighting in the UFC for years now, has fought some of the best that the division has to offer. We got Thales Leites, David Branch. Listen, the only reason why he lost that fight against David Branch via split decision is because David Branch has an iron chin. But Marc-Andre coming off a loss. Christophe Joko coming off a win against Alan Amedovski. I know not the biggest household name, but before that, losing 3 times consecutive, one of those being against David Branch, and the other 2 versus Uriah Hall and Brad Tavares. All very game opponents. But nonetheless, when we're comparing the striking style of both fighters, they are predominantly strikers, knockout artists. Marc-Andre, however, likes to throw those looping techniques where Christophe Joko tends to be more sophisticated with his striking, more linear and precise. And unfortunately, that's how Marc-Andre has approached his fights thus far. But if I'm going to have to say who's going to win this fight, I do think Christophe, being the more tenured fighter in the UFC and being the more sophisticated and technical striker, Christophe Joko, use that long reach, keep that distance, and just play the counter game, at least for the couple first minutes while you're trying to feel out, measure out your reach to Marc-Andre. If I'm going to have to say this again, Marc-Andre is going to lose this fight. I have Christophe Joko maybe playing the feeling out phase in round 1, but inevitably getting the ground and pound in round 2. Next up on the card, we have a very, very technical fighter coming all the way from the TriStar gym, Olivier Aubin-Mercier, going up against tough Russian Arman Tsarukyan. Now, Arman's only had one fight in the UFC, but calm down. He lost via unanimous decision to one of the very, very best coming out of Dagestan, Russia. And in my opinion, one of those fighters that kind of mirrors the techniques and ability and the longevity, durability, whatever, of Khabib Nurmagomedov, and that is Islam Makhachev. So, I mean, losing your first fight at the UFC and not necessarily totally getting dominated in a fight like that, in my opinion, is very impressive. Where Olivier has had a little bit of tough luck in his last couple outings, losing against Gilbert Burns, which to me is a big setback, and just before that, losing via unanimous decision against heavy hitter in the division, Alexander Hernandez. One thing about Olivier, he's coming with a lot of fire into the UFC, but every time he has fought one of those high caliber opponents like Cesar Mutanche, Chad Laprise, he always comes up short. He's always beating those B-ranked fighter, A- fighters, but then when he fights the A division fighters, he tends to fall short every single time. Maybe he just doesn't have that full-on it factor that's going to take him to the next level. This is one of those fights where he needs to be calm, and he needs to be very mature and disciplined in his approach to somebody like Arman, who's going in there to take your head off, and he's very durable, can go that full 15 minutes. Arman's a very good grappler, but doesn't have a lot of submissions on his resume, where you have plenty of submissions on your resume, and you are very versatile on the ground. So even if you were on your back, I think you would be the safest, rather than standing up and, of course, wearing one of those spinning back kicks that we've seen Arman throw in the past. I think, first of all, the keys to victory is Arman is going to have to push the pace, really wear and tear Olivier out. Really let him know that home advantage is not going to be an advantage whatsoever, and frustrate him early in the fight. These young fighters, the earlier they get frustrated, they tend to just throw their game plan out the window, which is what I can see Olivier doing if Arman has his way. But Olivier should just stay focused, do what he does in the gym on a day-to-day basis, work that wrestling, press them against the cage, eliminate those dangerous strikes, and if you can, take it to the ground and get a submission victory. Because if you let Arman push the pace with his wrestling, he's really strong too, it's going to tire you out. I think Arman is ready. Arman is that character that's ready for the next level in the competition. Although only having one fight in the UFC, I just think he does have that it factor. Olivier will always be a bridesmaid and never a bride. So I do see Arman getting this in the second round, a second round finish. Next up on the card, we have heavy hitter Jeff Neal going up against actually a not too bad of a heavy hitter as well in Nico Price. The 170 division is absolutely stacked, and in order for one of these fighters to break in that top 10 of this division, they're really gonna have to make a statement here in this fight. If you're just gonna pitter-patter back and forth, take it to an uneventful decision, it doesn't mean taking it to a decision will make it boring. You are not gonna be seen no matter if you get the W or not, because there is too deep here of a division for you to be noticed with just a semi-satisfactory victory. Jeff Neal is a well-versed mixed martial artist, but he's predominantly a striker. He has 3 submissions on his victory, but they're all via rear naked choke, and let's just face it, rear naked choke is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu 101. But Nico Price, however, is coming off a huge knockout against another big UFC vet, and that's Tim Means. So Nico Price, in my opinion, has a lot more to lose here. He's fighting this up-and-comer new gunner in Jeff Neal, who still is trying to make his way into the headlights. Not really many people have heard of this name, Jeff Neal, and that's why Nico Price has to be weary and confident and relaxed inside the octagon, especially in that first minute and a half, because Jeff Neal's gonna come in on such a high and try to take your head off. Jeff Neal, I think your keys to victory here is to push the pace early, take the center of the octagon, keep control of that center of the octagon, and just start wailing at Nico Price. Nico Price likes to use the legs, so what are you gonna do? Go for a head kick? No. Kick his damn legs so he can't use the tool that he loves using so much. Keep that distance so when you're ready, you can go in there with that 1-2 and knock his block right off. If I'm gonna have to say who wins this fight, I do think Nico Price is gonna play this smart in the first round. And in the second round, he is going to have a very, very tired Jeff Neal staying in front of him and take him to the ground and inevitably get that submission, knocking Jeff Neal, unfortunately, back down the ladder for him. But fortunately enough, for Nico Price, a little bit up the ladder, closing in on that top 10 ranking. Now, let's face it, almost all spotlights, my spotlight, of course, is shining on this women's fight next. We have the previous featherweight champion of the world in the women's division, Cris Cyborg, and she is going up against Felicia Spencer. Now, everybody's asking why Felicia Spencer gets this fight. And it, of course, on paper, maybe it doesn't make sense. But if we look at her last victory, it is coming against Megan Anderson, and in very, very quick, devastating fashion by submission. Megan Anderson, when she first came into the UFC, everybody was saying, okay, Megan Anderson is the one who's been calling out Cyborg. She's huge. She's very technical. She is going to be the one that's going to beat Cyborg. But now that she has been taken out from this new gunner, Felicia Spencer, it only seems fit that she fights Cyborg next, considering Cyborg is coming off a knockout loss. The way it's paired makes complete sense to me because Cyborg hasn't lost in a very, very long time, and she's never lost the way she did. Actually, very few fighters lose the way that she did, which was an absolute devastating knockout fashion from, of course, the current champ, Amanda the Lioness Nunes. Now, the reason why she got knocked out, in my opinion, because she is a very technical striker and a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, is when she gets hit, she gets emotional. When she smells blood, she gets emotional. Game plan goes out the window, she puts her head down and starts swinging for the fences. I don't think you're gonna have a problem here against Felicia Spencer in that regard, because Felicia Spencer isn't a knockout artist. She's more of a submission specialist. Don't let her get a hold of you and take it to the ground. Even though you have an amazing grappling game, especially showing in that fight against Yana Kunitskaya, let's not go to an area where it's gonna make her happy. Stand up with her. She only has 1 TKO victory now at the very beginning of her career against someone that no one's even heard of. Have you heard of Rachel Wiley? But Cyborg's just gotta stay calm, keep her distance, pick her shots. As soon as she lands a shot, then I believe put the pedal to the metal, because if she grabs you and takes you to the ground, this is where it's going to tire you out, and this is where she's going to gain points. Like I said, you're a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but don't roll the dice on the ground game of Felicia Spencer. Don't sleep on it. So I say keep that distance. Of course, while Felicia is going to want to play the other tactic, get in close, eliminate those hooks that she likes to throw, and hopefully try to take it to the ground. I do think that Cyborg is going to be one of those fighters that's absolutely going to be humbled and learned completely from the loss that she had, especially such a devastating loss. She's going to come in sophisticated and ready to take off Felicia's head, literally in round 1. That is exactly when it's going to happen. Felicia is going to be so stuck on, kind of like Ben Askren against Jorge Masvidal, so stuck on getting a hold and taking it to the ground that she's going to be blind by the devastating striking that Cyborg has, and Cyborg's going to finish her in the first round. Now, when we go to the main event, it is an exciting, absolute exciting featherweight showdown between the current title challenger, previous lightweight champion Frankie Edgar, taking on the current featherweight champion in Max Holloway. Max Holloway was on a 13-fight win streak and still is at the featherweight division. But since then, his last fight, he moved up to try to capture the interim championship status at the lightweight division when he took on heavy-hitted Dustin Poirier for the second time. Dustin Poirier, with his creative head of movement, his very technical boxing, and his amazing footwork, was able to dominate, not just outpoint by a minor scale, completely dominate Max Holloway for every single round. Now, the funny thing about this fight is you're going up against Frankie Edgar, who is also a very, very technical technical boxer. When we minus the Brian Ortega fight, in which he got devastatingly knocked out. But Max Holloway got revenge for Frankie Edgar when he knocked out Brian Ortega in their title fight. Listen, Max Holloway also has fantastic boxing. He's got a longer reach than Frankie Edgar, and he's been a lot more active of a fighter than Frankie Edgar. Not to put down Frankie Edgar Edgar's always ready for a challenge. We've seen Frankie Edgar in some of the best fights in history of the UFC, and frankly, he doesn't get enough shine for the things he's done for this company, in my opinion. Frankie Edgar has 3 fantastic victories over very, very technical strikers like Jeremy Stevens, Yair Rodriguez, and in his recent Cub Swanson. He is by far ready for this fight against Max Holloway, absolutely, and his boxing might even be better than that of Dustin Poirier's. But he doesn't, obviously, because of his size, because he is such a smaller fighter, he doesn't bear that significant knockout power that maybe Dustin Poirier bears, which could play a factor in this fight. But the big question here is, Frankie Edgar, can he close that distance? Find a way in to land those shots on Max Holloway. Because if it's going to be a fight similar to Jose Aldo at UFC 200, it's going to be very, very hard to get in the reach of Max Holloway, fighting a longer fighter that's good with his leg kicks, good with his long jab. It might be very frustrating for Frankie Edgar to get in there and close that gap. Max Holloway also, I believe, is one of those fighters that can learn from a loss. He knows how to lose. He's lost before, and he came back and won 13 significant fights in a row, which led him to being one of the best featherweight, if not the best featherweight champion of all time, since his last loss to Conor McGregor. This could very well be the fight of the night, and mark my words, will be the fight of the night, and could very well be the fight of 2019, having 2 amazing fighters that always, no matter who they're fighting, are promised to put on one of the best fights and most exciting fights that you have ever seen. If I'm gonna have to call this fight though, I think Frankie Edgar has been in this game far too long without getting his respect, and I think he's going to get his respect here at UFC 240. I think he's gonna outbox Holloway again. He's gonna study those tapes of Dustin Poirier and say, wait, shit, that's me. I can do that too, even though smaller reach, like I said, but he's great at closing that distance, maybe using his wrestling, changing levels, throwing Max Holloway off. Is he gonna box me, take me down? Actually, you know what? He should be doing both. I am on Team Edgar this one. I just think he can do it. One more hurrah. One more last time to shine as the champion. I think he's been screwed out so many in close split decisions in the past, and I think this time he could win in such a fashion that there will be no denying that he is the featherweight champion, even if he chooses to retire soon thereafter. I want him to touch the strap one more time, and I believe no matter who's gonna disagree with me, he can do it this time by decision. Hope you enjoy watching UFC 240 this weekend. It is gonna be absolutely exciting. So much fireworks, so much to talk about thereafter as well. Thank you for tuning in. Leave a like, leave a dislike, doesn't matter. Leave a comment below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Guys, thank you so much for tuning in for UFC 240. I love you guys so much, and we are gonna see you for next week. Peace.